Hey guys, Wilddock Studios here, and today we're going to talk about the 2D skeletal system that's on the Unreal Engine Asset Store. Um, so to get started, I'm just going to create like a quick project. I'm going to name it like Skeletal 2D example. Project names have to start with alphanumeric. I think it has problems starting with with numbers, so I'll just name it this way. We'll hit create. Then while this is going, I'm gonna reload the Epic Games launcher, and we will go to library. I'm going to type in 2D skeletal system here because we want to add it to our project. Add. And then now that that's done, we can go to the project settings, and we're going to switch over to forward rendering. And I'll explain the reason for that in a bit. So it's this here. And then the other thing that we're going to do is go to anti-aliasing, and we're going to change this from TSR on both of these to FSAA to MSAA, because it's just a much better anti-aliasing method for forward rendering. And then we're going to restart. And the reason why I'm saying go with forward rendering is because two things are going to change. But by default, the forward renderer uses shadow maps, which a lot of people know it as cascade shadow maps or CSM, instead of virtual shadow maps. Second, it's a lot more compatible with mobile rendering pipelines and mobile hardware. And third, it TAA anti-aliasing versus MSAA, you don't get the very crisp, sharp outlines that you would get, and you'll also get shadowing artifacts in VSM on deferred rendering. So it's just, I highly recommend switching over to this rendering pipeline. So once that's out of the way, as you can see, the skeletal system handles 2D characters, but it does it in a different way than 2D sprite sheets. So essentially, the 2D skeletal system is a way for people, to use Unreal Engine 5's workflow to do something that, like, say, 3D Spline, or I think it's 3D Spline, and Unity has a 2D bone system. So it brings 2D workflows closer to that, and also allows you to use like blend spaces and your animation blueprints outside of sprite sheets, flipbooks, right? So what this means, though, is that you get to do things like sockets for weapons, because these guys have an actual skeleton. We can go to the golem here and you can see it. These guys have a skeletal hierarchy. That means when you're animating them, you're actually animating bone rotations and transforms, and switching out like their eyes is as simple as switching out a material instance. And this material instance, if I highlight it, it's just masked over a plane. So like if I unapply this, you'll see there's a plane here. So it's essentially the same thing as a 2D skeletal system, but it was created for a workflow that only has two-dimensional transforms on flat planes. That's probably the easiest way for me to like explain what this is. And the reason why I think like now is a good time to start adopting this type of workflow is because of a tool that the engine recently introduced, which is the skeletal mesh editing tool. So the first thing we'll go over before we dive into that is how easy it is if you have an asset that follows this same structure to add one. So I'd like to do that first. We'll create a new folder, and we'll call this Goblin. And then inside of the Goblin folder, we'll do textures. And then inside of the Goblin folder again, we'll do materials. If I can spell. And then we're just going to go to the place where I extracted the textures for this Goblin. And I'm going to drag those in real quick. So I'll go find those. And it's going to be like this. It's going to be body parts, right? So I'll go in the textures folder. I'll highlight all of these and we'll just drag them over. Now with them still highlighted, we're going to right click them and then we're going to go to sprite actions and apply paper 2D settings. And that's going to get us like where we need to be with this. Now for materials, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go find the Goblin materials and I'm going to duplicate them. I'm going to copy, not move, because I don't want to impact the other guys. And then for each one of these, you're just going to open them up one by one. Sorry, not there, here, that's the parent. And you're going to find the body that you just imported, and then I'm going to change this so we can see it on a plane instead of a square. And then you're going to hit save for each one of these. So same thing, come here, find eyes, our face, however it's named. I think it's like Goblin face. Here's one. That'll work. Head. We'll find the Goblin head. I don't know if that's what they called it. Body, face. Yeah, it's here. Head. I'm not going to keep changing the thing. Left arm. Let's see if the Goblin's left arm is listed in here. Left leg. Right hand. Right arm. And right leg. All right, once you have this done, you can just duplicate a character, right? And then in that character, you would just go select all the Goblin stuff. So head, I think this is it. Yeah, Goblin. Let's see if I can find. What do we name it? Face? Let's just see. Did we not do it for him? Oh, it's named Gollum. They're all in Gollum 1. I'm going to rename this to Goblin 1. Just to... There we go. And I think the eyes was in, yeah, Goblin. So that's all good. We'll reopen this and find Goblin eyes. The real deep green one looks to be the right one. Then we'll hit compile and save. And then here, character 3, we can go to the world details settings, go to game mode, and we can change this to character 3, and then we hit play, we're all switched out, right? So that's essentially like if you're using the same structure, the same texture size and everything, how you would go about doing this process. Now, to point out clearly here, something isn't the same, right? This guy looks like this, and whenever I hit play, you can see his face appears to be a little shrunken up. And that's why I say it's important to match the texture size. So if we go look at the face texture here and I hover over it, you'll see that the size is 320 by 240. But if I go to the golem and hover over its textures for the face, it's going to have a different texture size. And this is where a tool comes in that brings this system to a whole nother level. So that would essentially be like how you would go about setting up something or having multiple characters that share the same texture coordinate system, same bone structure, etc. But if we want to deal with characters that have knees, or we want to deal with characters that their face is located in a different spot, then within the system what you would do is you would create another skeleton. But in order to do that and edit it within the editor and this workflow to be really nice, I'm going to introduce a plugin. It's not enabled by default, but it's Skeletal Mesh Editing Tools. You would enable this, hit yes, restart, save selected. And at this point, I'm not going to mess with this guy too much. Well, actually, we could blow him away now that we have the material instances created. So let's do that. We'll just blow him away. We don't need him. We have the goblin stuff, the materials and the textures all set up. So this is all good. And if we go to the golem, what you're really going to need to do is duplicate this skeletal mesh, and we're going to name it goblin because we want to do fine-tuned adjustments to this guy. And we're going to drag this over to the goblin folder because that's essentially now the goblin skeleton. And then you'll double click on this, and then up here you'll see this editing tools, right? And then here we're going to start changing what we need to be the goblin. So we'll keep going down the list here. It's going to be body, left arm, left leg, right leg. So now we have the goblin and all his body parts, and his hand could be adjusted a little bit, etc., right? So here you're going to see this edit bones, and then you're going to see edit skeleton. So like if you click this button and then we come to the hand, you'll see you have widgets available. So to rotate this hand, you would essentially rotate the bone, and then the mesh card that's associated with the hand would rotate. If this was an animation and the animation was driven by like a sequencer, right? So if we're talking about the bone itself and its relationship, it's weighted to this mesh card. When you hit the edit button, what you're essentially doing is you're editing the local rotation of the bone and not necessarily its influence on its weighted plane. I know that's a mouthful, but essentially if we go back to that hand, here we have this rotation applied to it. We can reset that back because we know that that isn't what we wanted to do. Same thing with like the face here. Like you can move this bone around, but it's not going to correct the face's orientation or its mesh card to that bone. So I'm just going to hit cancel here. I'm not unhappy with where the face is as far as the bone is concerned on this skeleton. I think the skeleton, like if we was to show I think it's here, bones, and we go all hierarchy. I'm not terribly unhappy with where things are as far as the body, the legs, etc., think this is pretty good. But what I think could be better is the arm to hand orientation. So hopefully I can show you how to do that. Now, the process is almost the same, but you would highlight the area, you would go to edit skeleton, and then I think it's mesh processing. I don't think it's skin weights. I think it's polygroup edit, if I remember right. And then you have to hold shift and get only, or maybe it's control. Yeah. Yep. You get only the thing you want, and then you move it. And then same thing for like the scale of the object. I think there's a way, yeah, there is. We get this to go where we want it to be. We can highlight this. We don't need this other one here. Scoot the whole thing down a little bit, and then when you get happy with it, you just hit accept, right? So that's how you would adjust each piece of this thing to basically custom fit the goal of what you want it to be. And it looks like his face, like this face object, still needs to come down a little bit. So we'll go back to that again, and again I'll select what I can manually. Happy with that, and we'll slide the whole thing down because his face wants to be down low. So that's essentially that. And then same thing, like I don't think the skeleton matters too much because we're not really wanting to adjust orientation of the skeleton. At this point, it's adjusting these mesh card rotations and positions to be what we want them to be. Same thing, so we can select this. I think, I wonder if there's a way to hide the other one, because this one is technically behind here, but we don't want this one or this one. So I'm holding control to deselect. And then once you get what you want, you change it to the rotation here, and then we just rotate this to what we're happy with. We can change it back to the position that we want. And then once we're happy with where that is, we hit accept. And then same thing for like the arm over here, right? So I think it's this guy. I wonder if there's, okay, I don't need you or you or you. And you can hold control and like select as well to get rid of some stuff. I don't need the face. Don't need that because I think that's part of the hand. I think I don't need these. Don't need those. It's this, this. It would be great if I could actually hide some of this, but I wonder if I can actually only do faces. I mean, that's going to move it all. I don't want to do that. Yeah, that is definitely the arm. So it's that guy. This guy. This guy. And there's one more hidden back there. Over here somewhere. Is that all of it? That's all of it. All right. That was more difficult than it had to be. I think that's good. I'm happy with that. And then same thing for the hand, but you kind of get the gist of this. Same thing for the body. Can't remember. I don't want to rotate right now. I just want to. Yeah, that's the body. Pull his body parts down. I think we can pull the. We're actually yanking on the arm a little bit, but I think it's okay. I want to get a reference image. Okay. All right. I think I'm happy with that. That's pretty close to what I want. And then of course the eyes in the reference image here is open. So we'll go back and we'll look at his textures and we'll do face 1 for the material. So here, it's fine. We'll do that. And then we'll go back to his skeleton. Yeah, not too shabby. So another thing you'll notice too is under certain angles, you can see how like the arm is kind of flickering a little bit, like it's fighting with position. And if we go to the reference image, you'll see like it's because his arm's a little south of the head. So we can slide that down a little bit more and keep that from happening. But what I also want to show you is that like the bones have a Z position. I say Z. They have a Y position, and it's the location. So like if we go to edit skeleton and I select the the right arm in this case, you'll see that the Y position is at 0. But if you slide this back or forward, you'll notice that the bone slides up and back relative to the position of the head. When you weight objects to this bone, that bone position being in front or behind the other plane is going to impact that clipping whenever things are animating. I'm going to hit cancel here because again I want to use the mesh plane portion of this to adjust that back. So I'm going to go back here, go back to the shape, our mesh, is it mesh processing, or yeah, here. We'll go to polygroup edit again. I'm going to select these guys and then these guys, and then I'm going to slightly push it back because I want it behind the head. I don't want it to be fighting at different angles with the head. And I think I'm good with that. And we can pull that down just a tad. And I might rotate it just a tad too. Yeah, I'm good with that. So this is essentially how you would do this. Now, if I go apply an animation to him, you'll see he's all jacked up now, right? Because this animation was built for the other skeleton. So at this point, this, you would need to go inside of sequencer, and you would need to use the sequencer animation tool to like cook out another set of animations for the new skeletal rig. Because these animations are compatible with this duplicated skeleton, it's gonna they show up like, hey, you can use these if you want to. But yeah, you're moving these meshes around and rotating the bones, etc., is going to mess up the animation data whenever you go to apply that animation to the skeleton that you just modified. If we close that out and reopen it, you'll see it resets all of this. So yeah, just consider this a new skeleton. And also like separate your animations for each one of them. And I think there's a way to like remove the compatibility from one to the other, but because we duplicated that other one instead of creating a new one, that's the reason why these animations are going to show up like this. And for the most part, I would say I'm okay with the majority of how this worked out. The only thing that I'm just kind of like about is that hand rotation. The face looks good. The position of that looks good. This, yeah. I wonder, in this case, if I can't just rotate that hand card back around and leave it be, because it rotates it this way. So like if I negate that rotation value, don't need that one. I'm not trying to rotate you, I'm trying to deselect. There we go. What? I deselected the wrong one. So if I rotate this back in like this, we had to go, what, way down because it's up? Or we have to go up because it's down. I can't remember. Let's see. Like, I want it here, but that's gonna jack him all up. Wonder if I can do... Yeah, I'm gonna do left hand. Right hand, sorry. And then I'm going to... There's my brush. Add, relax, replace. Let's replace. That's not what I wanted. Now we pruned it. All right. So now we have nothing on the hand. We'll go back to edit weights. Verts, brush. We'll go back to brush. I don't understand why this hand. We're all the way up. Add, replace. See, it's on. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want to do a... Let's do this again. I don't need you. I see it back there. It's barely selected. I think that corrects that. We'll keep going. Yeah. All right. Let's go just test this map out real. Oh yeah, that's right. We don't have a character right now. So we have this goblin skeletal mesh. We can just do, so whenever you, we'll do character 2. So when you create a new skeletal mesh, we could technically duplicate this character again and assign a new mesh. So let's do that. Instead of having to reassign all the materials, you just go select a goblin. Did that not? Oh, we changed the mesh. We need to reset all the materials to the default value because it's an override. There we go. And we need to select character 3. That would help. Yeah. So there we go. We now have a goblin that has its own skeleton with its own rotations. That is much closer to the representation that was provided by the example here. Now he is a little tall for this representation. The head does need to be adjusted on the scale side, but again, we would follow the same steps that I showed earlier where we can adjust the mesh plane to closer match the character representation that we're trying to go for. The same process can be done in the skeletal mesh editor to add bones on the edit skeleton here. You can add or edit bones. That is probably going to need to be a different tutorial because I don't want this thing to stretch out too longer than it already has. Anyway, for all of the Patreon members, I appreciate it. All of you guys that are a member of the Wild Ox Studios Discord, thank you for the suggestions. Remember to smack that like and subscribe button. Until next time, happy developing and toodles.